Alright you guys, welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Phipps and it is my current mission to mentor driven young adults to a successful future by using fitness as the gateway. And while I do help young adults achieve successful fitness transformations, one of the most important factors of self-improvement is mindset. So today I want to share 3 lessons that I've learned in my early 20s with you. Now these lessons have been essential for me to drop out of college, chase my dreams, and start a business where I'm able to do something that I love each and every single day. And just to give you a little bit of insight on how this video came about, I actually originally shared this as a post on Instagram where I shared 9 life lessons that I've learned in my early 20s so far. And I actually got so much engagement and interaction on that post specifically, had so many conversations with people about some of those life lessons and their experiences with them as well, that I figured I should just do a long form video here and break it down and kind of share a little bit behind those lessons and why they're so important to me and how they came to be. So without further ado, let's dive into lesson number 1, and that is you can't help people who don't want help. And this was a really tough lesson for me to learn. I would say I'm naturally a very agreeable person. I have a lot of empathy and compassion for other people, which I think does show through in the fact that I am a fitness coach. I love to help people feel better and just really, improve their lives through fitness. But what really hammered this lesson home for me specifically was a few years ago, my dad had a major surgery where my family wasn't entirely sure if he was going to make it through or not. He got a hip replacement surgery, which is generally straightforward enough in terms of how surgeries go. It's pretty routine, but the complication came in when he got MRSA, which is an infection that people get from surgery sometimes that can lead to amputation of the affected limb, and people can die from it if it gets into their bloodstream. Now, why this got so complicated is because that happened. They treated him and thought they got all of it, but they didn't. So he went on for essentially a year without us knowing that this was going on inside of his body. And once they finally caught it, he had 4 different types of MRSA growing inside the hardware on the replaced hip, which is very extreme. So what they actually ended up doing was they had to take out the synthetic hip at that point and put in what they call a stent, which is basically, picture like a ruler or like a spacer that they coat in antibiotics. So MRSA is generally very sticky. Think about it kind of like a bug that is very sticky to things. So it was binding to the synthetic hardware that he had inside of his hip. So they had to put in that stent. So he was essentially left without a hip holding his, leg onto his hip or his pelvis for a prolonged period of time, which was very difficult for the family in general, but also just in terms of his recovery, thinking that at one point, best case scenario may potentially be, he loses his leg, or, it's been going on for so long, it could potentially get into his bloodstream and he would die. Now, luckily that didn't happen, but where the lesson comes into play here specifically is, so as he was starting to get back into things, the next natural step that people progress through post-surgery is generally going to be physical therapy. And to do the operation that he got specifically, they had to basically go through his leg muscles. So imagine, you're looking down at your quad, they have to go through all of the muscle to get to the bone, within your hip, within your glute, many different areas there. So there's a lot of recovery and just strengthening of those general areas that people have to do post the operation that he had. And I mean, I'm sure you can imagine that if you had to, blow through your quad to get to a bone underneath, you're going to have a lot of muscular pain. There'll be a lot of weakness, not even to mention the fact that atrophy and just being sedentary for, a prolonged period of time while recovering, would do that to anybody, let alone even if you had a surgery or not. And this is where within that situation, I felt like I finally had some control or, potential to help, because I do understand a lot about muscle growth, about the basics of rehab, just in terms of, strengthening a muscle, kind of doing things functionally. So what I did was I put together a protocol for him. Okay, this is how we're going to strengthen this muscle. This is how we're going to strengthen this muscle. This is the general outline of nutrition that's going to be advantageous to you, as you recover, as you, focus mainly on just the muscles recovering, getting stronger and stuff like that. And I was very happy to put all of this together and be able to be helpful in this situation. But I was so surprised when he wouldn't do any of it. And to me, it was like, after all of that, you're at the part where you actually have the opportunity to come back stronger, because again, you get a hip replacement because things aren't great in the first place, but you have this opportunity to, start training, start dieting for the goals that you have at hand to recover, build strength better than before. My dad is one of the strongest people I know. He's very strong. He's very set in his ways, and he believed that he was just going to mentally will himself through these challenges. And he stayed strong in his beliefs. He didn't believe that he needed help in that situation. And thank God he's alive and walking around to this day. But that experience really taught me that you can't help someone who doesn't actually want help. Damn, getting deep with you guys today, but moving on to lesson number 2, which is tell the truth or at least don't lie. Now, I learned this rule from Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, and I read this when I was 18 and I realized that I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. At the time, I was diving very deep into self-improvement, starting to read these books, consume content related to personal development, and this was one of the rules that really stuck out to me that I started to live my life by. Back then, I made my first website where I was writing fitness blogs and making fitness programs, and that really kind of morphed into the coaching business that I run now. That was kind of the foundation, the groundwork, where I got my passion and experience and just realized that that's what I wanted to do. But it really wasn't years later until I started coaching, I'm 22 now, that this rule really changed my life. You see, one thing I've realized about coaching is you need to help people see things they already feel and already know. You see, if someone's serious about getting in shape, there are a lot of beliefs that we need to change in the process of becoming that evolved version of ourselves. And it's my job to hold people accountable to their long-term goals, but in a constructive way. And I found this naturally very difficult at first because I'm a very agreeable person. But I realized very early on in my coaching career that the worst thing I can do for people inside my program is to let them lie to themselves for the sake of staying comfortable. In fact, that's the whole reason they're there in the first place, is to grow and to change. And in order to do that, there's always a season of discomfort that we need to go through. So you see, I always tell the truth to the people that I work with because the truth will set them free. In fact, telling the truth is the best possible thing that you can do for your future self. And through that evolution, I've been able to see so many people change, not just physically, but also mentally. Because think about it like this. Let's say that I'm just starting my fitness journey, and I truly do believe and I think that I can't eat the way that I should eat. I don't think that I have time with my work schedule to reach my fitness goals. But I decide to give it a go, and let's say that, I'm working with me, and I keep telling myself these things, I have these conversations, I have these beliefs. But over a period of 6 months, I find a nutrition approach that works for me. I find or I make time to go to the gym, and I achieve a visible fitness transformation. I guarantee you that version of myself after 6 months is no longer going to have those limiting beliefs or really just excuses anymore. But if I kept lying to myself that whole time, one day, I'd look in the mirror, be 40 or 50 years old, and realize that I just let myself go. But generally by that point, it's too late. Not because my body's gone, but because my mind is so gone, because I have, 30 or 40 years of bad habits and negative beliefs to undo, which is why these things are so important to pay attention to in our early 20s. All right, moving on to number 3, and number 3 is the day you plant the seed is not the day that you eat the fruit. And there's a story behind this lesson. Back in 2022, I went to San Diego to surround myself by other driven young adults who were fitness coaches. Now in San Diego, I met a guy named Steve. Steve is a successful bodybuilder and a successful fitness coach. And when I met him, it was obvious to me right away that he's an elite fitness coach with a wealth of knowledge. And I actually ended up hiring Steve a year later in 2023 to coach me through a cut and to mentor me in business. And I've learned so much from Steve and been able to help and serve so many of my own clients as a result of what I learned from him. And I originally heard the saying, the day you plant the seed isn't the day you eat the fruit, from Steve, when we were actually just talking one day about how he ended up being my mentor. And he actually gave me a new perspective, because in San Diego in 2022, it wasn't like he was actively trying to get me to be a client, to sell me anything or anything like that. In fact, I'm pretty sure I approached him because I just could tell that he was so passionate and knowledgeable based on the way that he was talking to other people about fitness and about his profession as a fitness coach, which attracted my attention or planted the seed in my brain. Then when I was ready to level up, I reached out to him, and since that seed was planted, it was very easy for me to make the decision on who I wanted to work with. So if you operate in life with pure intentions, go out there with the intention to just plant seeds, make connections, meet people, try to influence people, help them out, while expecting nothing in return, I can guarantee that God will provide you with all that you need and more. And this lesson is so true for anything. I apply this to pretty much every aspect of my life now. And this really does help with anxiety as well, because if you start something today, you're not going to see the reward from it today. But if you stick with it long enough, eventually that fruit will grow. And it just helps you carry yourself as a good person, because knowing that, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the things that I'm doing right now, even for example, this video, right? Someone who sees this video might watch it in a year and decide to reach out to me, decide to leave a comment, decide to leave a like, who knows? This might be the video that blows up, or people really enjoy, or maybe I start making more content like this. But this rule really does just help you orient yourself in a way that will promote you acting with intention and purity. So guys, those are 3 lessons that I've learned in my early 20s. I want to say thank you for your time, and as always, if you're a driven young adult looking to get into the best shape of your life, click the link down below to work with me one-on-one, and I'll help you build your dream physique while scaling your mindset to be the equivalent of the transformation that we achieve together. And feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I share tons of content like this daily. But thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.